Noise comic began on National Pizza Day 2018. I noticed it was National Pizza Day, and I came up with an idea to draw a little comic. And I grabbed a Sharpie and a piece of printer paper, and I drew up this comic real quick. That was about something that actually happened with Lisa and myself. And I brought it down to Lisa and showed to her, and she laughed. And we thought, well, we can post this on Facebook and it'll be funny and all our friends will laugh. But then right away, we kind of both knew that this was it. So is this book just a collection of comics?
Well, since you asked, as we started to develop the comics, we learned a lot about craft. We learned a lot about storytelling. We learned a lot about the way that we relate to the world and how we related to each other. And we wanted to be able to share that with everybody. And so we started to write essays, and the essays that are in this book have never been seen before. And they really help to explain the story of this year. So we're really happy to share this book with the world. And part of the reason that we're doing this now is that we have over 1,000 comics on Instagram. They're kind of lost in the Instagram archives. Nobody really goes back and reads the ones at the beginning, and they still have a lot of value, and we want to make sure that they have a place in the world. The world needs light, the world needs laughter, and the world needs books.
Well said.
What's going on, Bryce? Webster Style, the man, the voice of fragrance, here with Lisa and John from Background Noise Comics. Lisa and John, how you guys doing today?
Great, thanks.
Doing good.
Good. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. One of the things that I asked, one of the things that you want to ask, but you guys with your current Kickstarter, which we can get to, as well as Background Noise, you talk about you being partners in love and art. How did Background Noise, as far as a creative project or company, come together between you two?
Why don't you do it, John?
Okay, I'll do it. The comic started when Lisa and I had been wanting to work on something creative together for years, and we had always tried to make up something, a story, a book, a comic, or something that we would work on together. We would start a story, we'd like do some characters, and it kind of would never really gel. It just there's just something about it wouldn't be genuine, wouldn't work. And one day it was National Pizza Day, and I made a comic really quick, just like on some printed paper with a Sharpie, just like little quick 2-panel comic about us, like we are now, sitting on the couch as we always are, with our laptops in front of the TV, like we are every night. And we're just like sitting there working on our laptops and talking. And it was a joke about, something that we had actually said, and, made it, showed it to Lisa. She loved it. And, we were just going to share it with friends. But then we kind of realized that this was kind of the simple but authentic thing that was really about us, that would work for us. And so the first year we started doing it every day, and that's how it started.
Yeah, and just to give you a little backstory, I'm a writer, and John's a illustrator, cartoonist, and so he was working at Nickelodeon at the time. He was doing a lot of animation. He was pitching story ideas with other writers, and I kind of come to this more from a fiction background. I've done some theater, and so I had never really done comics before. So we were trying to kind of come up with a project that we could work on together, where I could use my writing skills and John could use his art skills. And like he said, we tried a bunch of things, and everything just there was just a little bit of tension between us.
Mhm.
Either one of us would say, "Oh, I don't like that. Why am I doing this for you?"
Yeah.
And
We
then
were going to break up over creative
yes, yes,
differences,
yes, yes, yes,
like the Beatles.
like the Beatles.
Uh,
Okay. I have a question. Though. When it I hear that, but it's one of the things in both you guys' bios that really struck me. That's partially because of my own background.
Mhm.
Both you guys are educators in some way, shape, or form. How does being an educator influence you when you're creating art, whether it's actually creating the artwork or writing? Does that give you a different, or compared to say before you were teaching, does it give you a different perspective of how you communicate to the world when you're creating your art?
I mean, that's a great question. Um, you know, my parents were teachers. I grew up in a classroom. My mother was a nursery school teacher. I spent my after school hours in a classroom. I was the ceramics teacher in my sleepaway camp. Like I've literally been teaching since I was like a tiny child. So for me, teaching has always been super like integrated into my world. And I think that as a writer and a teacher, there's similarity in that you have to really recognize your audience and speak to them. And so when we're doing a comic, we often have an agenda. We have, we want to make people laugh. But some
Mhm.
of our comics are about heavier topics that we want to kind of help educate about, especially when it comes to some of the political stuff or some of the mental health issue stuff. And so, that's where I think teacher head comes in, where you want to start thinking about like, how can I relate to somebody so that they can get something out of this without feeling talked down to or I don't know, bored.
Preached at, or
Preach that. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, you want to connect with people emotionally, and like authentically. Uh, yeah. And for myself, like my teaching, I taught at the Joe Kubert School, the comic book school, for almost 10 years, and uh, doing the comics just like always kind of seems to circle back to teaching. Um, people are always interested in how it's done, both just technical things and creatively. How you make comics, how you work together, and so we're kind of like I'm not right now currently teaching, although I might be this summer. Um, but it like it always comes up. We're always kind of like when I do a live video, it always kind of turns into a tutorial kind of thing. So I think it's part of kind of like being an artist is always sort of like also sort of trying to you know pay it forward artistically and be a mentor.
Okay.
Are we allowed to ask questions back? Like, I'm just curious
Yes.
your
You're fine.
your like what your relationship to teaching is and how it's affected you. I'm just curious.
Well, sure. I was a graduate assistant in college. I was adjuncted for a number of years, about 10. My background's in the sciences, so environmental science
Mhm,
and
mhm,
biology at local community colleges here. So that is actually, a lot of what you said, Lisa.
mhm.
In my day job, and even in this, I always kind of flip back to that mode about connecting with audiences, and especially when as some of I tended to teach at that time a lot of older students as well,
Yeah,
non-traditional students. So a
yep,
lot of, and they were non-science majors. So it
mhm,
was always reframing the general material in terms that they can understand and really finding a way that they could connect with the basic environmental principles I was talking about. In the bio, they were all community college, typical college age, so they all needed to be there. But
yeah,
yeah, I take the same approach as well when I'm teaching. When I'm speaking for work, I'm always in a sort of a teacher mode, illustrating, lecturing, looking at
yeah,
my audience, throwing in things to where they would connect or they would have a better understanding of the processes that I'm talking about.
yeah. That's cool.
I'm
It's
glad you asked.
That's interesting what you said about reframing. I think
Yeah.
that's really like spot on. You know, like when we're coming up with like ideas for a comic, we're looking for ways that we can reframe something in a way that's funny, but also, like you said, reframing it in a way so that it's understandable and kind of will get that message across. It's cool.
Right. I always one example I always go back to when I was teaching environmental science. I always used I used the Voltron analogy because I'm of a certain age. But then at
Mhm.
one point I realized, wait a minute, they don't know what Voltron is. So then I switched to Power Rangers because then they understand the Zords
Right,
and Forming and everything.
right. I work in advertising for my day job, and I remember the day that um the the um oh my god, the Twilight Zone reference no longer made sense to people, and I was just like, oh my god. And like I was creative director, and I was like, you have to watch the Twilight Zone.
Right.
But there was this whole generation of like up and coming creative folk who like had never seen the Twilight Zone. Like their parents hadn't shown it to them.
Now you need to say Black Mirror. They'll get
Now
that.
you say Black Mirror, and then they
Yeah.
get it. Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me about Love Letters Every Day, your latest Kickstarter.
Well, we're super excited about it. It's been a few years in the making. Um, we, we when we first started, we wrote a comic every day, and we were very disciplined about it. We really wrote a comic every day, and like John said, originally they were shorter 2-panel comics, and eventually they got a little bit longer, and then we started to not be able to do them every day. But for that first year, it was just like, what can we do today? What can we do today? What can we do today? And we just got it out. And that was really, that first year was the year that we kind of developed the brand, not to be too like highfalutin, but we really did. We sort of figured out what kind of stories we really wanted to tell and how we wanted to tell them. And we learned so much. I mean, it was a crazy amount of learning. And we people asked us a lot of questions. People asked us online all the time, like, how are you doing it? How do you do a comic every day? Why do your characters not have mouths? Why are you talking about the fact that you had a fight last night? Is that cat really yours? Why do you have so many cats? And so I started to write some essays. Like I said, I'm a writer, and I post them on Medium sometimes, but then we started to write some essays that were more specifically about that year. And those we kind of kept separately. They were really about this book. And that's how the book came together. We decided that we really wanted to make sure that we commemorated this, experience, this document of our lives, the life of like the world, because things were happening at that time. And really share what we learned with people. It's back to that teaching thing.
Yeah. Also, sadly, some things that were happening in the world then are re-happening now.
Yeah.
So it's all of a sudden
Yeah.
even more relevant than it was.
Got you. Understood. Now I have
Yeah.
a question with that, and I've seen just with other interviews I've had in especially couples, and well, quite in that the same realm. One of the things I always wonder, do you see like you're working together, you're creating this piece of art that is a direct reflection of your relationship? Have you found that doing this has aided in your communication as a couple?
So much. So much. I mean, it's I would say that it's strengthened our relationship beyond, I can't even tell you. Um, it's If you think about it, so I'm a writer, John's an artist, and so when we come to the story from different perspectives. So we have written comics about fights that we had had for maybe 10 years, and suddenly I have to write his perspective, and I have to make it
Mm,
true and honest, and suddenly I kind of get it. It's not just about me being right and him being wrong. It's about, oh, and, the same thing for him. He has to kind of walk into my shoes a little bit and understand, how I feel about my mother, how I feel about that moment in the fight. And it's just been an incredible way for us to be able to communicate to each other. I mean, we say in the intro to the book, and we say it in our Kickstarter too, we like learned our love letters, our love language was comics. And it's kind of not a joke. We kind of did. Because we were really able to, I mean, to be honest, like I said, we were a little bit like angry that we weren't getting like as much creative stuff done. And there was some like lack of, I don't know, how do you explain it?
Um, I don't know. I don't know what you were saying.
It's
That we were
not,
frustrated with our creative,
yeah,
where we were
and
creatively in that at that
and
time.
with each other a little bit. And
Mhm.
I think that being able to work on the comic together and experience life in each other's shoes allowed us to kind of, number one,
It like gave us the ability to deal with a frustration that we both had, but like we're dealing with separately. We could like deal with it together, and it helped us in other, like,
yeah,
it helped us creatively in our own separate paths too.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll also say um, Lisa has two kids from a previous marriage, and so do I, and we don't have any kids
no, we
together.
don't have any kids together.
We don't
Mm.
even have a pet
We
together.
don't even have a pet together.
Yeah,
We just have a
so
comic.
we have a comic, but you know, it's you know, it's a it's a big thing. It's we've been growing it for a long time,
Right.
and bringing it into this new this new way of being is, as it's hard. It's been, you know, a lot of work and very, very dramatic, but it's also where we've been wanting to go.
Yeah.
And honestly, the Kickstarter has kind of like, you know, sometimes you need a deadline
Mhm.
to kind of focus you, and so this has really like helped us in a lot of ways.
Got
But
you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say the other thing that was kind of cool was that when we started to share some of our dirty laundry, for lack of a better word,
Mm.
We were really nervous about it. And those comics blew up.
Oh yeah, people love to fight
People
comics.
love the fight comics. They would share them back and forth with their SOs. They would say relatable. They would say this sounds like you, and
Yeah.
just that feel, that knowledge that you're not alone in your stupid little like altercation, which is stupid and small, but also like enormous. It's your life. Was
Right.
was was crazy.
Yeah. I can definitely understand how something like that, because um sort of twofold. I understand when there's conflict in a relationship and everything feels so nuanced to just you. You don't think anybody else understands what you're going through. To have others sort of say, "Hey, I relate to this. I've had this happen before. I exactly understand how you feel." Can definitely be very therapeutic in many respects. And
Yeah.
then keep on that term. I can only imagine most couples do not have the opportunity to go back and relive events in their relationship, to relive arguments, disagreements, and then sort of going back to what you were saying earlier, as far as being able to understand different perspectives, because now you guys are literally reliving these events, putting them into comic form. So you have to see them again. So it helps you to see things in different perspectives.
Yeah.
So that's really amazing in my opinion, because one, it takes I can understand it, especially for some of the dirty laundry, as you say. It takes a lot to really sit down together and relive that again, to write it out. And then also it's very mature and adult to say, hey, I see this in a different perspective, or like you're saying, you have to write this, so you have to kind of look at it his perspective. He looks at it as yours, especially. I'm pretty sure that comes across in your artwork as well. It's I think is amazing, honestly.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
It also kind of it it like deflates it. Like it takes a little
Mhm.
bit of the, it's like killing the nightmare, you know? Like suddenly when you put it out in the light of day, it doesn't seem quite as bad. And
Right.
it's really amazing. I recommend it. make comics of your fights. Everybody. If you have a question about it, just send us a note, because we really do believe that it makes a difference, and we'd love to help you.
One of the things I found just not with comics, but just others I interview I know whose lifestyles are quite different than mine, there has to be a very healthy communication in order for that relationship to function, considering the extremes that they live in. And even in something like this, making a comic about your relationship is not necessarily that kind of extreme, but like still extreme compared to how most of us live. So it takes a lot, I can only imagine. So,
Yeah, we try.
so
Try.
that's all we can do, right? We try. Well, Yoda says do or do not. There is no try. So we can only do, I guess. So I'm not going to hold you guys any longer. Love Letters Every Day is out now on Kickstarter. I believe the deadline is March 17th at the time of this recording. Is that right? Looking at this?
March 16th, I think.
I think it might
Okay.
be March. Yeah, like in the middle of the night, which was not the best decision.
Right.
That's
So
what it was.
at the time of this recording, you got a month and by the time it goes up, you have maybe a few days shy of a month.
Yeah.
So check them out there. Where can everybody find more about Background Noise?
Well, we have a website, backgroundnoisecomic.com. It has all our links on it. We have a pretty active following on Instagram. Our handle is background_noise_comic. We're on Webtoons, we're on Medium. But if you need the links, just check our
Yeah,
website.
we're on Blue Sky.
We're on Blue Sky. We're
starting on
Blue
Blue
Sky,
Sky,
but we're definitely transitioning
Yeah,
more into Blue
enjoying it.
Sky and loving it.
Yeah, I like it too. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, all those links would have flashed below. If you missed that, they'll be in the show notes as well. So you don't have to look far to find out how to find out more about Background Noise Comics. Lisa and John, I want to thank you for your time. It's been a great conversation. I wish you guys much success, and I will definitely be enjoying this myself in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you.
All
It's
right.
great talking to you.
Yeah, this has been
Really
great.
enjoyed it.
Thank you, same here. Ladies and gentlemen, Web Style, make sure you follow them, do all your research, enjoy their webcomic, and we'll be back with more later. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Well, hello, baby. This is your lovely Misty Stone, and you are watching Webster Style with me.
What anime are you going to be watching?